Jim Longworth, and welcome to another edition of Triad Today. We have a lot to cover for you. First, let me just remind everybody we're coming to you once again from the beautiful Senior Botanical Garden in downtown Kernersville. We are not outside in the garden because on the day we're taping this, Wednesday, April 15th for the record, it's windy and cold. But when the weather breaks, feel free to social distance and come out and come around and visit the garden, all the tulips and the daffodils. It's a great place to visit. Coming up later in the program, you'll see some segments that we taped earlier, so you'll see us in the studio. But we have a special guest who's made the trip over here to the garden, and we're so glad she's with us right now. With me is Alexandra. I'm going to call her Alex Hale. She's family attorney with Dummett Fraden, and we welcome you to the program.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
We're going to talk about child support, which is one of your specialties. What financial factors do the courts consider when they calculate child support?
So in North Carolina, we have these worksheets that only consider the incomes of the parties. They also look at which party, if any party, covers any health insurance for the children. They might look at any extraordinary expenses, such as if the child has special needs, like a wheelchair or occupational therapy or something like that. The main thing that they're looking at is the custodial schedule. So if they have 50-50 custody, primary custody, or...
Yeah, so what happens if both have joint custody? I mean, how does that work out?
So with joint custody, there's not going to be a party that necessarily gets out of paying support. It's really going to be based on the disparity of the income. So the higher earning parent will likely pay something. However, that amount that they pay will be much less than it would be if one parent had a primary schedule.
Now, you were given an example of a child with a disability. Are there any other examples that are extenuating that have, because we know that child support would cover health care costs, and in some cases, I guess, would it cover education and...
It's different. So if we're looking simply at the worksheets, they don't necessarily factor in education. However, a party can always file a motion to deviate from the guidelines. When they do that, they would then have to put on evidence as to why they need to deviate from the guidelines. They may say that there's an extraordinary educational expense or something like that. However, they're going to have to then put on evidence in front of a judge, and then the judge decides. And the judges in Forsyth County, at least, are very rare to deviate from that guideline amount.
Now, is the calculation for child support the same for high-income parties? If somebody, if a guy is supposed to be paying child support and he makes $40,000 a year and another man makes $400,000 a year, I mean, what's the deal?
Sure. So the guidelines are presumed appropriate for parties that together make less than $35,000. Yeah, $35,000 a month. If they make more than $35,000, they again are going to be facing a hearing where they're putting on evidence as to the reasonable needs and expenses of the child to determine that determine that amount. It won't be through calculation.
Right. Well, I shouldn't insert an opinion here, but if you're making more than $35,000 a month, you said, you need to take care of child support. Let's look at a negative here. What if I say, hey, I'm just going to be nasty about this, and I refuse to pay child support? What can happen to me?
So there's a few different things that can happen. If you've already had an order in place, many times the judges will throw a party in jail for not paying that order or to paying that amount. Many times they'll be held in jail until an amount is paid. Many times we'll go to court the day of a hearing and the judge will say, can you pay anything today? And sometimes if the parties do not pay anything that day, then they will be held in jail.
On sort of a similar theme, but tying it into these pandemic times and stay-at-home times that we're in. As you well know, more so than at any other time in recent memory, more and more people being laid off. They're saying, the unemployment rate doesn't look too high right now, but some projections are it can be as high as 15% by August. What happens if I'm well-meaning as far as, I want to pay child support, I've always been on time, but now I've lost my job? What happens?
So if you've lost your job, you need to file a motion to modify child support based on a substantial change in circumstances. Obviously, that change is going to be that loss of your job. Now, when you have that motion in front of the court will consider whether or not you are voluntarily losing your job to try to decrease the amount of child support that you're paying, or if you have involuntarily lost that job. If a court finds that you have voluntarily decreased your income to decrease that amount in child support, they have the option of imputing your higher income that you previously made and requiring you to pay that amount that you were paying.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you a couple personal things.
Sure.
who or what led you to want to become an attorney?
So I have an interesting path. I actually taught elementary school for a
You
few
said you have an
years.
interesting path or past. I have an interesting past, but we can't talk about that on this.
This is true. I have an unusual as far as the life that brought me to become a lawyer. I taught elementary school for a few years.
Okay.
I taught in some high income or high poverty, low income schools, and decided it wasn't for me. I wanted to help out a little bit differently. The emotional stress of being a teacher was difficult, and I wanted to help on a different scale. My father's also an attorney, and that kind of motivated me to go back to law school.
I'm glad you could help us with this topic. On screen, dummettfraden.com is the website for the radio listening audience. I'll say it again, dummettfraden.com. You can also call 877-978-3218. Alex, thanks for helping us.
Thank you for
Hope
having
you'll
me.
come back sometime.
Of course.
We'll be right back after this. On Triad Today, I always like it when we can get a special guest from UNCG, my alma mater, although they don't claim me. And next to me is the very lovely Dr. Carrie Hill. She's a clinical assistant professor and director of the RN to BSN program. I'm going to find out what that means in a minute at UNCG School of Nursing. Welcome, Doc. Good to see you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
What does, I'm going to play ignorant because I don't have to pretend. I am. RN to BSN, what does that mean?
Well, that means that a lot of people have heard of a registered nurse.
Right.
And that's an RN. And there's many different ways to become an RN. You can go to a diploma program, you can go to an associate's program, or you can get a bachelor's degree.
Right.
And the RN to BSN program is tailored specifically for those nurses out there who have a diploma or an associate's degree and who want to continue their education and get their bachelor's degree.
Okay. Now, what is your role in this program in helping folks?
Well, so I just became the director of the program as of January 1st. And so I'm the director of the program. I guess I'm in charge of making sure that we're doing everything right.
And I know you are. I happen to know you are. But now, who are your typical students?
So we don't have any typical students, I'll tell you that. We have nurses, so those are our typical students, but they can be straight out of their associate's degree program. They can be 21, 22 years old.
Even older?
And we have some that are in their 60s.
Wow.
Coming back to school to get their bachelor's degree.
I like that. That's my group in the 60s. And they, seriously, they're coming in to come
Absolutely.
in to get the degree.
Yep.
And now I heard that you're also involved with the Moss Street Partnership School. And we featured that some time ago on the show. It's a great partnership, the elementary school there. Tell us your role with that.
So the School of Nursing, we began our involvement with Moss Street Partnership School this past summer, and I took a group of senior nursing students. So those were the students that are just getting ready to graduate here in a couple months in May, and as part of their population health course, we developed a clinical site there, and so I took students there every week to see what we could do to help out the elementary school.
Isn't that great? You're also a pediatric nurse, so I want to ask you this. Give me a couple examples of things that parents can do to ensure the health and safety of their children these days.
Well, a lot of that depends on the developmental level of the child.
Sure.
And so certainly taking care of an infant is a lot different than taking care of a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old. And so a lot of it depends on how old the child is. You know, the things that you watch out for an infant are a lot different than the things that you would watch out for a 10-year-old.
Right.
But you know, we're coming into flu season and
Oh, yeah.
all the big respiratory viruses. And so one of the biggest things that you can do that we preach to our nurses is wash your hands.
Oh, yeah.
We can't stress enough how much washing your hands is so important, or using the Purell, the hand sanitizer. It's very, very important.
Absolutely, and because little kids go to school with other little kids and they just love to swap flu germs, don't they?
They do, and we always say that the way that a lot of smaller children and toddlers explore their world is through their mouth.
Yeah.
And so anything that they see, they pick up and they immediately put it in their mouth.
Man, that's me and chocolate cake. That's why I'm overweight. Now, before time runs out, what led you to want to do this career in healthcare and nursing?
It wasn't my original career. My original career was actually doing benchtop research for vaccine companies, and I wanted to actually help and take care of people directly rather than work in a lab.
I think that's great.
And so I went back to school and became a nurse, and then just never stopped from there.
So the bug sort of got in you about when? How many years ago?
I've been a nurse for 15 years.
Wow.
And really, if I'm being honest, the one reason that I did
Well,
it
we
was
don't like
because,
that on this show.
because my sister told me that I probably wouldn't become a good nurse, and so I wanted to do it just
Well,
to...
boo on her, because you have, and we're so glad you did. Up on screen before time runs out, nursing.uncg.edu is the specific website, which I hope you'll go to for the radio listening audience again, nursing.uncg.edu, and the basic website for the university, uncg.edu. Dr. Carrie Hill, thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Will you come back and see us sometime?
Absolutely.
All right. We'll be right back. Triad Today. I'm excited about having this lovely lady with us because we both love horses. And she takes that love and does something really special for the horses. We're going to find out what that is. Next to me, Kelly Emerson is a board member of something called HERO, H-E-R-O, HERO, and she is my hero. But welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I'm going to first ask you, because people are going to wonder, what HERO stand for?
It stands for Horse Education and Rescue Organization.
Now, when was the group founded, and what is the mission, the overall mission?
It was founded in June of 2007 originally, and the overall mission is to rescue and rehab neglected, abused, unwanted horses or equines.
And abandoned. People will, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why these horses come to you, I imagine. And you said equine in general, because that, what would that extend to?
Mules, donkeys,
okay.
zebras.
Yeah. Now, why did you become interested in the organization?
I have a passion for animals to begin with, and have been in horses, working with them for the majority of my adult life.
Yeah.
Was a retired paramedic, so I just kind of put my skills to work.
Caring for people and now caring for the four-legged friends.
Correct.
Kelly, I'm wondering, since education is part of the mission, part of the name, what is it you try to educate people on?
Well, education, it remains the greatest means of abuse prevention. If we can prevent the abuse, we won't have it to begin with, or the neglect. Many times it's not intentional that the abuse or neglect goes on. So with education, we can take the private horse owner or the 4-H kid or the pony clubber and try to educate them on what they should do.
Better care for the horse, so that that horse doesn't end up with you and you don't have to rehabilitate him. So the prevention end is important, I know. How many horses are you trying to rehabilitate right now?
We have 5 in the program right now that are under active rehab.
Now, let me ask, how is this group funded?
The public funds us. We actively seek donations, sponsorships for the horses.
And you have fundraising events too. I was going to put up on screen at some point, there's one coming up called the Spring Fling and Open Show on Saturday, April 25th. And there's, I think for information, it's up on screen. You can call 403-7297. But is this an example of a way that you can raise money and have fun? And
It is. We have the horse show there at TTC, and they are big fans of ours. We are of them. We sell concessions. We have silent auction baskets that we sell.
Right.
And when you pay to go for a class there to show in, so the kids show, part of that comes to us.
Now, I'm going to put your website up on screen in just a second, but before I do that, because once people see that, they can not only get information, but also maybe make cash donations. But beyond cash, do you need supplies? And if so, what?
Oh yeah, we have some horses that they can't eat regular hay, so we would love a donation of chaff hay, chopped hay. If you have any halters, lead ropes, tack, brushes, anything that we can use to care for the animals, we'll take.
All right. And what about volunteers? Do you ever, maybe there's some people who can't afford to make a cash donation, but they'd like to volunteer. Do you need them?
Absolutely.
Well, what would they do?
Well, they will learn how to care for the horses themselves. We have a program where we can put them in, teach them all about caring for horses, how to lead them, how to feed them. So we'll take them.
All right,
all the
that's
volunteers.
good. All right, so as promised, let's put this up on screen. HeroEquineRescue.org. I'll say it again for the radio listening audience, HeroEquineRescue.org. Please go to that website, and if you can, please make a cash donation or get through to them and say, I want to volunteer. and give supplies, donate supplies, as Kelly was mentioning. Kelly, I really appreciate what you're doing and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right. We'll be right back after this. To a legend, a jazz performer, a man who hailed from High Point and who is being celebrated in many, many ways in this area. And we have three very special guests who are going to tell you what those ways are. On my immediate right, Melanie Burnett is president of High Point Convention and Visitors Bureau. Next to her, Phyllis Bridges is co-chair of the Coltrane House Oversight Committee, and she's a local historian. And Joe Williams is festival organizer for the John Coltrane International Jazz and Blues Festival. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Thank you.
Phyllis, I'm going to start with you, if that's all right. Just remind folks who John Coltrane was and how the house project came about.
Okay, John Coltrane is an international icon. Raised in High Point to about roughly the age of 17. This project came about 3 years ago. I kind of spearheaded a campaign to get a historical marker placed at his childhood home. And then after that, the Coltrane Project was formed. And that is some concerned citizens of High Point who want to save his childhood home and continue with his legacy.
I think that's great. The big plans coming up. You're going to do fundraisers, and what's going to happen?
We're going to do fundraisers to raise money to preserve the house because it does need some work, and we are going to decide what we're going to do with it afterwards.
All right, Joe, let's turn to the festival, and I'll plug when that's going to be later on just to let people know. But for now, how did the Coltrane Jazz Festival come about?
Well, initially it was a project to get a statue of John Coltrane downtown City Hall. And once we accomplished that, it was momentum that built from that. It's like, what do you do next? So I'm a music guy, and in the conversation, our festival was the perfect way to keep its legacy going.
Absolutely, and you're the perfect guy to do it, and we appreciate that. Melody, let me turn to you. Why is this festival an important economic driver for High Point's tourism economy?
Well, it serves as a significant attractor for High Point. I mean, there's pinpoint reasons as to why tourists want to come to this festival, and it's been growing 45% since the last 5 years. I mean, it's close to 8,000 attendees. $1.1 million of economic impact. So
Wow.
as a destination marketing organization, we love those numbers.
Well, let's talk about another phase of marketing and tourism. What's your overall goal in terms of packaging all the various points of interest that have to do with John Coltrane? How are you putting that all together as a tourism and visitors thing?
Well, Joe's doing a great job of getting them here. Phyllis is going to do a good job of getting them engaged, and so it's our responsibility to make sure that we don't miss a rock unturned. We need to make sure they're having a great experience with the restaurants, with our historical perspective, having them to come here for a second night.
You want everybody to have a good experience when they come
Absolutely,
in.
want them to be engaged to the max. Just don't come to the festival, go to all touch points that have to do with High Point and beyond.
So, Joe, in that sense, the late John Coltrane is still sort of being an ambassador to people coming in the area.
Absolutely, and the festival has reached the whole U.S. We've had people from South Africa, London, so it's really taken off organically.
Yeah, Joe, very quickly, I think I read somewhere, maybe it was Melody that sent me some information about an essay contest. Quickly, what is that?
Absolutely. We have a student essay contest, and if a student will write an essay and he has a desire and aptitude in music, we make an effort to get them brand new instruments. And it's just a wonderful part of the festival.
That's just great. Up on screen, I want to give this just to let people put this on their calendar. The John Coltrane International Jazz and Blues Festival. That's Saturday, September 5th, Sunday, September 6th. ColtraneJazzFest.com is the website on screen. 336-819-JAZZ is the number. Now, for information about what's going on in High Point with tourism, all the great work that Melody's doing, and everything High Point, go to highpoint.org. Again, for the radio listening audience, that's highpoint.org. I hope you will do that. I can't tell you how appreciative I am of the work the three of you are doing in this regard and in many other things, and keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We'll be right back after. Back now on Triad Today, just about time for the roundtable. Just a reminder to pick up your copy of Yes Weekly. It's available for free just about everywhere, so go out and social distance yourself and walk around the fresh air and grab you a copy of Yes Weekly. Now, As I reminded you at the first of the show too, we're still at the Senior Botanical Garden. We happen to be on the inside today. It's kind of windy on this day that we're taping, and so we're inside. But here's our roundtable gang. On my right, but always a political left, Ogie Overman, the great broadcaster and journalist. Behind me and way up into wherever he is in the rafters, Dr. Don Martin, Vice Chair of the Forsyth County Commissioners, and our good buddy Keith Granberry bringing up the rear. He's founder of Helping Hands Consultants. Guys, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Let's start with the IRS. The IRS is doing us a favor by letting us have until July 15th to file our taxes. But the state of North Carolina is actually charging us interest on the taxes if we didn't pay them by April 15th. Should the General Assembly take an emergency voice vote to waive that policy, and will they? Ogie.
Well, of course they should. I mean, come on. But with the Republicans in charge, who knows? Who knows?
Don?
I think they should, just to be aligned with the federal government, because they make every effort to do that.
Now, they got rid of penalties, but not interest, Keith.
They should get rid of it. I mean, there are a lot of people who are in the unemployment line right now, and we understand that it's going to be a very trying year for people. That's a no-brainer.
A recent poll by the Washington Post revealed that Americans are divided on the idea of states being able to close their borders off. We have some states more affected by the pandemic than others, of course. You guys think that a governor should be able to close his or her borders off from other states, Ogie?
I don't see how that could be practical at all. I don't think it will come to that. I don't see
You'd
that
have to close the airports?
Yeah, I don't see how that's doable.
Dr. Martin?
Well, we have interstate highways, and I think we have to, and they're mostly paid for by the federal government. I think we have to have interstate travel.
All right, Keith?
Well, I know in South Africa they've closed the borders, and there's no travel in and out of South Africa.
Between different provinces?
Yes, but I think that it should not be where they closed, each state be closed, and I think that's impossible.
Ogie's going to like this one. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley said that the coronavirus relief funds, a package, should not have included emergency funding for the arts, like the Kennedy Center or PBS. Agree or disagree with Nikki Haley? Ogie?
Well, Republicans have never been too keen on funding the arts anyway. I would like to ask them today, what would they be doing without the arts? Would they be watching any movies or reading any books or watching any TV?
They'd be watching Trump's campaign videos during the...
Not me. I
Don
wouldn't.
Martin?
Well, actually, I think probably they should not be funded with the relief package. However, the relief package does have funds available to cover employees and to give actually business loans. I'm on the Clydean board. They're doing exactly the same thing.
Keith?
They want to close down everything but Fox News. But anyway, no, I think what would people be doing right now if there were no arts involved in this?
You're right.
What would they be doing at home?
I know. Well, I don't
Come
want
on.
Well, there could be. Well, I'm not
I mean,
gonna get into
besides that.
the sheriff and this is Keith's last show, by the way. The sheriff in Los Angeles has closed all gun shops, saying they're not essential businesses during a pandemic. Meanwhile, a number of sheriffs in North Carolina have stopped issuing gun permits. Now, I'm not saying there's a correlation with the rise in domestic violence while people are cooped up together, but basically, are gun shops essential? And if not, should they be closed until things settle down? Ogie?
Yeah, how can that possibly be an essential business? I mean, what kind of country do we really live in if gun shops are essential? Come on.
Don?
Well, if you go by Governor Cooper's order, basically any business that's able to conduct it with social distancing except at the point of sale is essential. So in that definition, a gun store can be. So I think that we could debate a lot about what's essential and not.
All right, Keith?
I don't think it's essential, but I think we also understand that now with what's going on in many states, crime has risen quite a bit, but guns stores are not essential to life right now.
I want to switch over to it's kind of a heavy topic. A Guilford County group wants to erect a memorial to victims of lynching, historically similar to the museum kind of exhibit they have in Alabama. Would a local lynching memorial bring us closer together or just divide the races further? Ogie?
I think I'd like to see that, Jim. I think we need to raise awareness of how bad it really was in this country.
Especially for the younger people who don't know.
For several centuries.
Don?
You know, I think the Greensboro Civil Rights Museum actually does a lot of that, and I think it's a great venue. And I think if you work together to have a memorial inside or outside, right? There's actually a place, I think, outside. I've been
Right.
to the museum.
Right.
It would be an excellent project.
Keith?
I think a memorial is needed, but I also would like to see some statues of some of the African Americans who fought in these wars and were heroes that we don't see. We see a lot of statues up, but I have yet to see an African American statue.
No, they don't have them. Some lobbying groups want daylight savings time to continue and then be extended year-round. Others want to get rid of it altogether. Very quickly, guys, what do you think? Ogie?
I don't care one way or another. Just do it. Just get rid of it and do it. I don't care one way or the other.
Don?
Well, I actually, having my superintendent days, put that hat on. Bus stops in the dark are a problem, and we used to literally calculate the sunrise issues at the change of the times to see how many more kids are going to be in the dark when they're picked up.
Right. Keith?
I like daylight saving time. It always makes me feel better when you have more sunlight during the day.
Yeah, so you wouldn't want to go live in Norway, would you?
No, Norway or Alaska either.
Yeah. And finally, finally, guys, according to a recent survey, people are buying lots of shirts, but they're not buying pants because they don't have to get dressed up, just a video conference from home. Guys, do you wear pants at home, Ogie?
Jim, if you're going to be the total package, you need to wear pants. I mean, you just need to wear pants. I mean,
Don Martin, do you wear pants?
Well, most of the time I do, yes.
Most of the time?
Most of the time.
What does that mean?
Well, I had to look for my pants this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you found them.
Keith, do you wear pants at home?
Absolutely not.
Have you and Don gotten together at your house?
No.
No, social distancing, man.
Yeah, Keith is helping Don look for his pants. Well,
I am not helping Don
That's
look
all
for
the
his
time
pants.
we have. Except for this. In this era of social distancing, a Japanese company has actually made a telephone where they have put human-like lips onto the receiver and with a sensor, so that when you call somebody, the person you're calling will actually feel the kiss that you have given them. Said one man who's tried it, he said, I've used it a whole lot of times until my wife found out. For all of us here,
That
I
wasn't
think
funny,
Ogie's
huh?
got that phone too. For all of us here on Triad Today, I'm Jim Longworth. Stay safe.